The message from my investment advisor should have been my first warning that something was catastrophically wrong. Unusual trading activity detected in Blackwood Hotel stock. But I was too engrossed in quarterly projections and board meeting preparations to give it more than a cursory glance. My name is Audra Blackwood, and that notification marked the beginning of the end of my carefully structured world and the start of something I never imagined I'd become. Audra, you look like you've seen a ghost. Maya Rodriguez, our chief operating officer, appeared in my office doorway, her usual confident demeanor tinged with concern. I stared at my phone, my hand trembling slightly as I processed the numbers on the screen. The company shares, there's been a massive unauthorized transfer. The family trust holdings, my personal portfolio, everything's been liquidated. Maya crossed the luxurious corner office, her heels silent against the thick carpet. What? That's impossible. Those shares are supposed to be locked under multiple layers of security. Mother, I whispered, the realization hitting me like a blow to the solar plexus. She must have accessed the trust documentation somehow. The joint authorization protocols we set up when I was getting my MBA. I never had them revoked. Call her, Mia urged, her hand squeezing my shoulder firmly. Maybe there's a reasonable explanation. I tried. The call went straight to voicemail, again and again. Each unanswered ring felt like another betrayal. I need to get to the mansion, I said, grabbing my Hermes bag. Something's very wrong. The drive to the Blackwood estate was a blur of manicured lawns and wrought iron gates. When I pulled up to the circular driveway in my Mercedes, I noticed Mother's Bentley was conspicuously absent. The grand entrance was locked, but everything inside the marble foyer looked perfectly normal at first glance. Then I saw the envelope on the antique console table, addressed in Mother's elegant handwriting, Dearest Audra, by the time you read this, I'll be overseas. I'm sorry, but I needed to secure my future. The hotel business is changing, and I had to adapt. You'll understand someday. Love, Mother. I crumpled the expensive stationery in my fist, tears burning in my eyes. Understand? Understand what? That you're a thief? My voice echoed through the empty mansion. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello, is this Audra Blackwood? A man's voice asked. Yes, who is this? Nathan Chen, your grandmother Eleanor's attorney. I've been trying to reach you. I'm afraid I have some difficult news. Your grandmother passed away last week. The room spun. Grandmother Eleanor, the formidable woman who built Blackwood hotels from nothing, who taught me everything about strength and business acumen, gone. There are some urgent matters regarding her estate and the hotel chain that we need to discuss, Nathan continued. Would you be able to come to my office tomorrow? Yes, I can do that. After hanging up, I sank to the marble floor, my back against the hand-carved mahogany paneling. A shadow fell across me. I came as soon as I could, Lucas Parker said, crouching beside me. Our head of security, and one of the few people I truly trusted. Maya called, said you might need technical support. She took everything, Lucas, I said, my voice cracking. And now grandmother Eleanor is gone too. He sat next to me, his security badge catching the light from the crystal chandelier. Remember when your mother tried to convince the board to sell our Singapore properties at a fraction of their value, and Eleanor stepped in? I nodded, dabbing at my eyes with a silk handkerchief. Grandmother blocked the sale, said protecting our legacy was more important than quick profits. She paid for my Harvard MBA herself, told me to never let anyone compromise my business ethics. Your mother's been playing these corporate games for years, Audra. The manipulated reports, the questionable consultancy fees, the offshore accounts that never quite added up. I thought she'd changed, I whispered, staring at the family portrait above the fireplace. She seemed different lately, more invested in the company's future. We were finally building a real partnership. My phone buzzed again. A message from the CFO. Your mother just sent an email to the board announcing your temporary leave of absence due to family emergency. Everything okay? Oh God, I showed Lucas the message. She's covering her tracks, making sure no one questions her actions for the next few days. She planned this, Lucas said, his voice hardening as he examined my phone. All of it. Getting closer to you, gaining your trust, just to orchestrate this massive stock manipulation. The numbness was wearing off, replaced by something colder, more calculated, a feeling that almost scared me. What are you thinking? Lucas asked, studying my face. I stood up, smoothing my Armani skirt. I'm thinking about what grandmother always said, in business, sometimes the best revenge is letting your opponent think they've won. But you know what? Maybe victory needs a little strategic planning. Audra, listen. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with grandmother's attorney. Whatever she left in her will, whatever control of the hotel she's passed to me, it's a starting point. Mother thinks she's won. She has no idea what's coming. Lucas stood too, concern evident in his professional demeanor. Just be careful. Corporate revenge can have unexpected consequences. I'm already changed, I said, looking around the mansion that held so many memories of boardroom battles and family betrayals. And maybe that's exactly what this company needs. My phone buzzed one final time. Another alert. Mother had just used her corporate card at a luxury hotel in Singapore. Game on, Mother. Game on. Nathan Chen's office felt too warm, despite the premium air conditioning. I fidgeted in the leather chair, watching him sort through a stack of legal documents. Before we begin, he said, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses, I want to express my condolences. Eleanor was more than just a client to me. She was a mentor and dear friend. Thank you, I managed, my throat tight. The view of downtown from his corner office seemed to blur. She spoke of you often. Nathan pulled out a thick envelope embossed with the Blackwood Hotel's logo. In fact, you were her primary focus during our last meeting. The door opened, and Maya slipped in, her Louboutins clicking softly on the hardwood floor. Sorry I'm late, she whispered, taking the seat beside me. I'd asked her to come as both COO and friend, knowing I couldn't face this alone. As you're aware, Nathan continued, your grandmother was a legendary figure in the hospitality industry. Blackwood Hotel's current market valuation is approximately $12 billion. My head snapped up. 12 billion? And that's just the hotel chain. He slid a document across his mahogany desk. There's also her personal estate, investment portfolio, and various international properties. Maya squeezed my hand under the desk as Nathan laid out the details. The numbers made my head spin. She left you everything, Audra. Every property, every share, every asset. Complete control of the Blackwood empire. But what about Mother? The words escaped before I could stop them. Nathan's expression hardened. Eleanor was explicit about Vanessa's exclusion from the will. She said, and I quote, my daughter has taken enough from this company already. A laugh bubbled up in my throat, slightly hysterical. Mother's going to lose it when she finds out. She already knows, Nathan said quietly. She's been calling my office daily, threatening to contest the will from Singapore. How convenient, I muttered, thinking of the stock transfers. There's something else. Nathan reached into his desk drawer. Eleanor left this for you. Said I should give it to you privately. He handed me an elegant leather-bound journal, the Blackwood Hotel's crest embossed in gold on its cover. I'll give you a moment, Nathan said, standing. Maya, would you mind helping me review some regulatory documents in the conference room? Once they left, I opened the journal to a marked page, recognizing my grandmother's distinctive handwriting. My dearest Audra, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But I've watched you grow into a formidable businesswoman despite Vanessa's constant attempts to undermine your authority. The empire I've left you isn't just about wealth, it's about legacy and power. Use it wisely, and remember, sometimes the best way to deal with a corporate shark is to let it think it's winning until it swims right into the net you've carefully laid. All my love, Grandmother Eleanor. My hands trembled as I closed the journal, its leather cover cool against my fingers. The door opened, and Maya returned alone. You okay? She asked, resuming her seat beside me. She knew, I whispered, running my finger over the embossed blackwood crest. Somehow Grandmother knew Mother would try something like this. What are you thinking? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a notification, an email from Mother. Darling, I know you must be upset, but I had no choice. The market opportunity was too significant to ignore. Once these investments mature, I'll restore your holdings twofold, I promise. And I heard about Eleanor. I'm so sorry. We should discuss the succession plans. Call me. Love, Mother. She's incredible, Maya breathed, reading over my shoulder. She orchestrates a massive stock manipulation and still thinks she deserves a seat at the board? I stood up, pacing the expensive Persian rug. You know what's truly disturbing? Part of me still wants to believe her. That's how skilled she is at manipulation. Even now, she almost has me convinced. So, what's the strategy? A plan was crystallizing in my mind, as clear and cold as a diamond. We let her think she's winning. Tell Nathan to leak that I'm considering a leadership sharing arrangement. Audra, Mother wants to come back? Fine. Let's give her something to come back to. I picked up Grandmother's journal, feeling its weight. A corporate trap of her own making. Nathan returned with a stack of documents, ready to transfer control of the Blackwood Empire. Actually, I said, sitting down, I have some questions about corporate governance. Specifically, about making someone think they have executive authority they don't actually possess. Nathan raised an eyebrow. I assume this has something to do with Vanessa? Let's just say I'm taking Grandmother's advice about handling sharks. As I signed document after document, I felt something shift inside me. The betrayed daughter was fading, replaced by someone stronger, someone who'd learned from the best about how to play the long game in luxury hospitality. One more thing, Nathan said as we finished. Your grandmother left specific instructions about the presidential suite at the flagship hotel. Said you'd know what to do with it when the time came. I smiled, remembering the suite Mother had always coveted, but Grandmother never let her use. Oh, I know exactly what to do with it. Mother's going to love it, right up until she doesn't. You're going to let her stay in the presidential suite? Maya nearly choked on her artisanal coffee. We were sitting in my new executive office at Blackwood Hotel's headquarters, surrounded by boxes of corporate documents I hadn't unpacked yet. The Manhattan skyline stretched out behind me through floor-to-ceiling windows. That's exactly why it's perfect. I pulled up the security feed on my laptop, showing the opulent suite. Grandmother had installed state-of-the-art surveillance after Mother's last attempt to reorganize our Asian property portfolio. Devious, Maya grinned. I like this new side of you. A knock at the door interrupted us. Lucas walked in carrying a stack of financial reports. Your mother's been busy, he said, dropping them on my mahogany desk. I had our banking division pull her transaction history. I flipped through the papers, my jaw tightening. First-class flights, presidential suites at competitor hotels, luxury shopping sprees. She's burning through my liquidated shares like they're nothing. There's more, Lucas said, pointing to a highlighted entry. She's been making calls to real estate developers here in New York. She's planning to return sooner than we anticipated, I said, turning my laptop to show them an email I'd just received. Dearest Audra, I've had time to reflect on my recent decisions, and I realize I've made some regrettable choices. I'm returning next week. While I understand I've damaged your trust, I believe we can rebuild our relationship. I heard about your inheritance of the Blackwood Empire. Perhaps we could discuss future collaborations over dinner? Love, Mother. Wow, Maya said. She's not even trying to disguise her intentions anymore. Perfect. Time to set the stage. I opened my calendar. Lucas, I need your expertise with something. He raised an eyebrow. Depends. Is it within SEC regulations? Mostly, I smiled. I need you to pick Mother up from the airport next week. Make it appear I'm too consumed with merger negotiations to come myself, then bring her to the flagship hotel. Maya caught on. Where everything will be arranged just as she expects. The dutiful daughter ready to be manipulated again. Exactly. I pulled out grandmother's journal. But first, we need to make some adjustments to the presidential suite. Over the next week, we transformed the presidential suite into an elaborate corporate trap. Every luxury item was cataloged and photographed. Every room had hidden security cameras. Every safe was rigged to record access attempts. The network monitoring software is active, Lucas announced, closing his laptop. I'd brought him in for his cybersecurity expertise, swearing him to absolute discretion. Any email or document she accesses from the hotel network will be logged and forwarded to you. You're frighteningly good at this, Maya observed, watching me arrange seemingly confidential merger documents in the suite's private office. I learned from the best, I said, thinking of all the times I'd watched Mother manipulate board members. She taught me everything I know about corporate strategy. Time to show her what an excellent student I've been. My phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. Vanessa's lawyers have withdrawn their challenge to the succession. Of course she did, Maya said, reading over my shoulder. Why fight for minority shares when she thinks she can claim the whole empire? That evening, as we finished the preparations, Lucas pulled me aside. Are you certain about this? It's not too late to take a different approach. I looked around the suite that would become Mother's gilded cage. You know what she said when I got into Harvard? Why waste time on an MBA when you could be learning the business from me? She convinced me to decline my first admission. If grandmother hadn't intervened. I remember, he said softly. You were devastated that year. She's never faced real consequences, Lucas. Not meaningful ones. She just moves on to her next corporate raid, her next hostile takeover. Not this time. My phone chimed with a flight confirmation. Mother would land tomorrow morning. Places, everyone, I announced. Time for the final details. We worked late into the night, perfecting the last elements, a walk-in closet filled with designer clothes, all tagged with security sensors, a jewelry safe filled with pieces that would test her self-control, financial statements accidentally left visible on the desk, showing accounts she'd never be able to access. One last thing, I said, placing grandmother's antique Cartier clock on the mantel. Mother had always coveted it, tried to claim it twice. Now it would serve as the perfect bait. As everyone left, Maya hugged me tight. You know she's going to try to turn this around on you, right? Make you feel guilty about protecting the company? I'm counting on it. I locked the suite door. That's how I know the plan will work. Mother can't resist playing the victim, right up until she goes for the corporate kill. Later, alone in my penthouse apartment, I watched the security feeds one last time. Everything was perfectly arranged, every detail calculated to appeal to Mother's appetite for power and control. "Game on, Mother," I whispered to the empty room. "Let's see how you like being the one who's outmaneuvered." I watched through the security monitor as Lucas's company car pulled into the hotel's private entrance. Mother stepped out, looking exactly as I remembered: Chanel suit, perfectly styled hair, and an expression of practiced remorse. "Showtime," I muttered, heading down to the lobby. The elevator doors opened. "Audra, darling." Mother rushed forward, arms outstretched. She smelled of Hermes perfume and calculated intentions. I let her hug me, keeping my arms loose at my sides. "Welcome back, Mother." "Oh, sweetheart, I've missed you terribly." She pulled back, tears glistening in her perfectly made-up eyes. "I know what I did was unforgivable, but I was desperate. If you'll just let me explain the market conditions." "Not now," I cut her off, watching Lucas bring in her Louis Vuitton luggage. "You must be exhausted from your flight. Let me show you to your suite." Her eyes lit up as we rode the private elevator to the top floor. "The presidential suite?" "But that was always Eleanor's." "It's mine now," I said, unlocking the double doors, "and I want you to have it." Mother stepped inside, her mask slipping for a moment as she took in the opulent surroundings: the antique furniture, the silk wallpaper, the gleaming Cartier clock. "It's perfect," she breathed, running her fingers along the mahogany desk. "Just perfect." "There's more." I opened the walk-in closet. "I had some clothes brought in for you, and the safe is stocked with jewelry you can borrow for board meetings." Her eyes darted to the safe, then back to me. "You're too generous, darling, after everything that's happened." "Family is family," I said, the words tasting like ashes. "Besides, Grandmother would have wanted us to work together." "About the succession," Mother started, sitting on the plush sofa. "I know I have no right to ask, but—" "Let's discuss it over dinner," I interrupted. "I have a merger meeting now, but I'll be back around 7. The suite is yours. Make yourself at home." As I turned to leave, she caught my hand. "Audra, wait. I really am sorry about the stock transfer, about everything. I'll make it right, I promise." I squeezed her hand, remembering all the other promises she'd made and broken. "I know you will, Mother. I know you will." Downstairs, Lucas was waiting by his car. She took the bait, completely and utterly. I pulled out my phone, opening the security app. Mother was already exploring the suite, examining everything. "Look, she's trying the safe combination already. Want me to stick around?" "No, go. But keep your phone on. Phase 2 starts tonight." Back in my office, Maya and Lucas were monitoring the feeds. "She's accessed that safe 6 times already," Lucas reported. "And she's attempted to breach your corporate email 3 times from the laptop we left in the suite." "Any calls?" I asked, settling behind my desk. 3, Maya said, all to her old contacts in real estate development. "Looks like she's planning to establish a foothold here." "Perfect." I pulled up the fabricated merger documents we'd prepared. Time to give her something to really think about. "Send these to the printer in her suite." We watched as the printer whirred to life. Mother practically pounced on the documents, her eyes widening as she read the proposed valuations. "She's not even trying to hide her ambition anymore," Maya muttered. "She thinks she doesn't have to," I said. In her mind, I'm still that naive girl who gave up her first Harvard admission. My phone buzzed. A text from Mother: "Darling, could we move dinner earlier?" There's so much I want to discuss about the future of Blackwood hotels. Here we go, I said, showing them the message. Everyone ready for phase 2? Lucas grinned, pulling up the surveillance software. All systems go, cameras active, monitoring in place. Your move, CEO. I texted back, of course, Mother. 5:30 at the hotel's private dining room. I'll have the chef prepare your favorites. Her response was immediate, perfect, darling. And thank you for giving me another chance. You won't regret this opportunity for us to work together again. Oh, but you will, I whispered, watching her admire her reflection in the suite's mirror. You definitely will. Lucas's voice was gentle. You still have time to stop this. I thought of my depleted stock portfolio, of years of corporate manipulation and lies, of grandmother's words in her journal, let it think it's winning. No, I said, straightening my jacket. She needs to learn. Sometimes the hardest lessons come from those we've underestimated the most. The private dining room felt smaller with Mother sitting across from me, delicately picking at her Wagyu steak. She'd changed into one of the designer outfits from the suite's closet, a Dior ensemble that likely cost more than most junior executives' monthly salary. The hotels are performing remarkably well, she said casually, steering the conversation where she wanted it. Eleanor always had an exceptional eye for luxury properties. Like mother, like daughter, I suppose. Like grandmother, like granddaughter, I corrected, watching her face tighten for a split second. Of course, darling. Though, I did learn quite a bit about luxury hotel management during my time in Asia. If you ever need guidance. My phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. She's been researching hostile takeover strategies and board member contacts. Actually, I said, setting down my wine glass, I could use your input on something. The Shanghai acquisition needs attention, and I'm overwhelmed with the details. Mother's eyes lit up at the mention of our largest potential expansion. The paperwork's in my office. Want to review it? She practically jumped from her chair. Lead the way, darling. In my office, I pulled up fabricated acquisition documents on my laptop. Mother leaned over my shoulder, her perfume almost suffocating. See these projections? I pointed to inflated numbers. They're interested in a complete portfolio merger. Fascinating, she breathed, already calculating potential gains. With my experience in the Asian markets. A crash from upstairs interrupted her. We both looked up. Probably just housekeeping, I said, hiding my smile. Right on schedule, Maya. I should check my suite, Mother said quickly. I left some confidential documents out. Of course. Take your time. The moment she left, I pulled up the security feed on my phone. Mother rushed into the presidential suite, making a beeline for grandmother's Cartier clock. She ran her fingers along the base, finding the hidden compartment we'd planted. Got you, I whispered as she pulled out the fake documents we'd stashed there, confidential merger agreements showing massive upcoming international acquisitions. My phone buzzed again. Maya this time. Your mother just tried to email photos of the merger documents to someone in Singapore. Caught by our firewall. Perfect. Mother returned, looking flushed but triumphant. Everything's fine upstairs now. About the Shanghai acquisition. Actually, I'm feeling rather tired, I faked a yawn. These merger negotiations are exhausting. Of course, darling. You worked too hard. She kissed my cheek. I think I'll make some calls, reconnect with our Asian partners. Partners like Marcus Chen? I asked innocently, naming her former accomplice in the Singapore property scandal. She froze for a microsecond. I haven't spoken to Marcus in years. Interesting, because he called the office today, something about an investment opportunity. Mother's mask slipped slightly. Did he? Well, I'm sure it's nothing significant. Later that night, in my apartment, I watched the security feeds with Lucas. Mother was making call after call, her excitement barely contained. She's already setting up meetings with potential investors, Lucas said, scrolling through her intercepted emails, using the fake merger documents as bait, just like she did in Singapore. I leaned back in my chair, exhausted. Same strategy, different continent. Audra, Lucas touched my arm. I saw how you tensed when she hugged you. This is taking a toll. I'm fine. No, you're not. You're starting to think like her. The words hit like a slap. I am nothing like her. No? Setting elaborate traps, playing mind games? What happens when this is over? She needs to learn, but at what cost to you? He turned my chair to face him. I've known you since your Harvard days, Audra. This isn't you. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with an alert. Mother was in the hotel's executive office, attempting to access the secure servers. I have to go, I said, standing. Audra, wait. Lucas caught my hand. Just remember who you are. Don't let revenge change that. I pulled away, but his words followed me down to the hotel lobby. On the elevator ride up, I thought about grandmother's journal, about karma and consequences in the corporate world. Mother was back in her suite when I arrived, looking innocent as a board member's wife, but the security logs told a different story: attempted server access, photographed confidential documents, suspicious international calls. Everything okay? She called out as I passed her door. Perfect, I replied, thinking of the trap closing around her step by step. Everything's just perfect. She's meeting with investors today, Lucas announced, striding into my office. 3 of them at Le Bernardin. I glanced at my Cartier watch. Right on schedule. Is everything in place? Maya's already there with the surveillance team, and guess who else just arrived? He slid his tablet across my desk, showing security footage from the restaurant's entrance. Marcus Chen. My stomach tightened at the sight of Mother's former partner, the man who'd helped her orchestrate the Singapore property scandal. She's really assembling her old team. Want me to shut it down? Lucas asked. This is escalating quickly. No. I stood up, grabbing my blazer. This is exactly what we need. Send me the live feed. Le Bernardin was bustling when I arrived, but I spotted Mother immediately at a corner table, holding court with 4 impeccably dressed people. Marcus sat beside her, looking exactly as untrustworthy as I remembered. Your table is ready, Ms. Blackwood, the maitre d' said quietly. Actually, I'm meeting someone. I headed toward the bar, where Maya sat nursing a martini, her phone discreetly recording the meeting. You won't believe what they're promising these investors, she whispered as I slid onto the stool beside her. Guaranteed returns of 30% on the Shanghai properties. It's the Singapore scheme all over again. Just like Singapore, I muttered, watching Mother gesture enthusiastically with her perfectly manicured hands. Same con, different continent. My phone buzzed. Lucas, are you sure about this? It's not too late to stop. I ignored the message, focusing on Mother's table. One of the investors was already pulling out his checkbook. Now, I said to Maya. She pressed a button on her phone. Across the restaurant, Mother's phone rang. She excused herself and stepped away from the table. Hello, she answered. Mrs. Blackwood? Maya disguised her voice perfectly. This is Sarah from Global Financial Compliance. We're calling about some suspicious transactions involving Blackwood Hotel shares. I watched Mother's face pale as Maya spun her tale about SEC investigations and frozen trading accounts. By the time she hung up, her hands were shaking. "Showtime," I whispered, standing up. "Audra?" Mother's voice pitched higher when she saw me approaching. What a surprise. I was just having lunch with some potential partners. Partners like Marcus Chen? I smiled coldly. The same Marcus who helped you orchestrate the Singapore property scandal? The investors at the table stopped talking, looking between us. "Darling, you're confused," Mother laughed nervously. "We were just discussing some potential investment opportunities in Asia." "Like the fake merger documents you stole from my office?" I pulled out my phone, showing the security footage of her photographing documents. "Or maybe the forged board signatures you've been practicing?" Marcus stood up quickly. "I should go." "Sit down," I snapped. "You'll want to hear this too." The restaurant had grown quiet, other diners trying not to stare at our corporate drama. Mother's perfect mask was cracking. "These investors deserve to know who they're really dealing with," I continued, my voice carrying. "Should I tell them about Singapore? About the millions in investor funds that disappeared? Or about how you manipulated our stock prices just last week?" "That's not, I was going to reinvest everything," Mother stammered. "Like you reinvested the Singapore funds? Like you reinvested the money from all those other special opportunities you've offered over the years?" One of the investors stood up, gathering his papers. "I believe we're done here." "Wait." Mother grabbed his sleeve. "I can explain everything." But they were already leaving, muttering about calling their attorneys. Marcus tried to slip away, but Maya blocked his path. "The SEC would love to chat with you too," she said sweetly. "I'll have my lawyer contact the appropriate parties." Marcus then quickly made his exit through the kitchen. Mother collapsed into her chair, her carefully constructed world crumbling. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this to me?" I leaned close, letting her see all the years of betrayal in my eyes. "Because you taught me well, Mother. You taught me that family means nothing when there's a deal to be made. You taught me that trust is just another asset to be leveraged. I'm your mother." "No," I cut her off. "You're a corporate raider who happened to give birth to me, and now everyone knows it." As if on cue, two men in suits entered the restaurant. Mother's eyes darted around, looking for escape routes. "Don't worry," I said, stepping back. "They're not SEC agents yet. Consider this a preview of coming attractions." I turned to leave, but her voice stopped me. "I really was going to make it work this time," she said softly. "The Shanghai deal was real. I was trying to rebuild our legacy." For a moment, I almost believed her, almost fell for the trembling lip, the tears, the perfect performance of a repentant business partner. Almost. "Goodbye, Mother," I said, walking away. "Enjoy the presidential suite while you can. The Rail board meeting hasn't even started yet." The security feed showed Mother pacing in the presidential suite, making frantic international calls. It had been 3 days since the restaurant incident, and her business empire was collapsing piece by piece. Another investor filed a complaint with the SEC, Maya announced, walking into my office. "That makes 4. And Marcus?" I asked, not looking away from the screen. "Cooperating fully with investigators. Turns out he kept detailed records of everything, including Singapore." My phone lit up with Mother's 20th call attempt of the day. This time I answered. "Audra, please," she started, her voice cracking. "We need to talk. Come to my office. 1 hour." I hung up and texted Lucas, "It's time." Mother arrived exactly on time, wearing the same Dior suit from her first day back, but now it looked wrinkled, as if she'd been sleeping in it. "Sit," I said, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. "Darling, I know you're angry." "Angry?" I laughed, pulling out a folder. "Let's talk about angry. Here's a statement from your Singapore victims, a family investment group who lost everything. The chairman had a heart attack when he discovered what you'd done." She flinched. "I didn't know." "Oh, how about this?" I pulled out another document. "The pension fund in Hong Kong that had to liquidate? Or the hotel chain in Dubai that nearly went bankrupt?" "Stop," she whispered. "This isn't what you wanted to discuss. Your greatest hits?" I spread the papers across my desk. "And let's not forget your latest masterpiece, manipulating Blackwood Hotel stock." I was desperate. "The Shanghai opportunity was a scam," I finished. "Just like everything else in your business career." She stood up, pacing. "What do you want from me, Audra?" "An admission." "Fine. I admit it. I'm sorry for everything." "No, you're sorry you got caught." I pressed a button on my phone, and the office TV flickered to life, showing security footage from the presidential suite. I recorded every call, every meeting, every attempt to orchestrate new deals. Mother's face went white. You've been monitoring me?" "Learning from the best," I smiled. "You taught me everything about corporate surveillance. Time to show you what an excellent student I've been." "The SEC already has copies of everything, along with statements from your former partners, Marcus's records, and evidence of your latest attempted schemes." She collapsed back into the chair. "Why? I'm your mother." "Exactly. You were supposed to mentor me, guide me. Instead, you taught me that family loyalty is just another commodity to be traded." I stood up, walking around the desk. "But grandmother taught me something too, about karma, about corporate accountability." "What are you going to do?" I handed her an envelope. Inside is a one-way ticket to Montana. There's also a contract for a position managing a small boutique hotel there. Non-executive level. "Montana," she looked horrified. "But my entire network is here." "Your network of schemes is finished. Take the position, disappear, start fresh. Or don't, and I'll release everything to the financial press. Your choice." "You wouldn't." I pulled out my phone, showing her the draft email to every major financial publication. "Try me." Tears rolled down her face, real ones this time, not the calculated drops she usually deployed. "I really did love you, in my own way." "I know. That's why I'm giving you a chance to walk away, more than you gave your other victims." The office door opened, and Lucas walked in. "The car's ready." Mother looked between us, clutching the envelope. "When?" "Now. Lucas will drive you to the airport." She stood shakily, then reached for her Hermes bag. "That stays," I said, "along with everything else from the presidential suite. You start fresh, or not at all." For a moment, I saw the real her, the scared woman behind the corporate warrior facade. She stepped toward me, arms raising for a hug, but I stepped back. "Goodbye, Mother." She nodded once, tears still falling, and followed Lucas out. Maya came in after they left, holding 2 glasses of aged scotch. "You okay?" I took a glass, watching through the floor-to-ceiling windows as Lucas's car pulled away. Did I just become her? Using her own corporate tactics against her? "No," Maya said firmly. "You gave her a chance to rebuild. That's more than she ever gave anyone else." My phone buzzed. A text from Lucas, "She's in the car, still crying." Real tears this time. It's really over, I whispered. Not quite, Maya said, pulling out grandmother's journal. There's still one more page you haven't read. I opened it to the marked page, seeing grandmother's elegant handwriting one last time. Remember, my dear, revenge might satisfy for a moment, but forgiveness liberates forever. The choice is yours. I closed the journal, thinking about mother's tears, about karma and consequences, about the thin line between justice and vengeance. The choice was mine, but what would I choose? The small boutique hotel in Montana looked exactly like it did in the surveillance photos. Through the window, I watched Mother directing staff at the front desk, her designer suits replaced by a simple hotel manager's uniform. You sure about this? Lucas asked from the driver's seat. No, I admitted. But grandmother was right about forgiveness, even if mother doesn't deserve it. Want me to come in? I shook my head. This is something I need to do alone. The bell chimed as I entered. Mother's back was to me as she reviewed reservation logs. We close check-in in 10 minutes, she said without turning around. Hello, Mother. She froze, then slowly turned. Gone was the perfect makeup, the calculated charm. She looked real. Audra, her voice cracked. How did you find me? You know, I said as I sat at the front desk, I've been thinking about your talent for making deals. With skills like that, I could only imagine the possibilities if they were used to build something instead of destroying it. Maybe we could explore that together. You've been watching me, she whispered. I never lost track of you. I settled onto one of the lobby's leather chairs. Coffee, please. Black. Her hands shook as she poured from the lobby's coffee service. Are you here to check if I'm running schemes again? No. I took a sip. I'm here because of these. I pulled out an envelope and slid it across the counter. Inside were dozens of letters, all addressed to me, all returned unopened. You got them, she whispered. All 32? I wrote one every week, but I couldn't send them. Until yesterday, I finished. Mother gripped the counter. And I believe you. About wanting to change. About being sorry. I pulled out another envelope. So I brought you something. She opened it carefully, gasping when she saw the contents. Grandmother's Cartier clock, the real one this time, not the replica from the presidential suite. Why? Because rebuilding has to start somewhere. I met her eyes. But there are conditions. She sat down heavily. Of course. First, you stay here, keep managing this hotel, keep building an honest career. I pulled out a folder. Second, you help me make restitution to your victims, starting with the Singapore Investment Group. How? I've set up a compensation fund from Blackwood Hotel's profits. You'll contribute 30% of your salary. It won't fix everything, but it's a start. Tears welled in her eyes, genuine ones, like at the office that day. And what about us? That's the third condition. I took a deep breath. Complete honesty. No more schemes, no more manipulation, just truth, even when it's difficult. Especially then. She touched the clock gently. Did I ever tell you why I started doing what I did? No. Your father. She paused. He left us with nothing. I was 26, with an infant and empty accounts. I promised myself no one would ever make me feel that powerless again. So you made others feel powerless instead? She flinched. Yes. And somewhere along the way, I forgot the difference between protecting ourselves and destroying others, including you. The hotel's lobby lights dimmed. Closing time. I have to go, I said, standing. But I'll be back next month to check on the hotel's performance. We can have coffee, talk business, try to rebuild. She came around the counter, stopping just short of reaching for me. I don't deserve a second chance. No, I agreed, but I deserve the chance to heal. And maybe this is how it starts. I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and Mother, happy birthday. Her hand flew to her mouth. You remembered. I remember everything, the good and the bad. That's what makes this so complex and so important. Outside, Lucas was waiting. How'd it go? I looked back through the window. Mother was holding grandmother's clock, crying quietly. She's different, I said. Really different. People can change, he said softly, if they want to badly enough. My phone buzzed. A text from Maya, did you give her the clock? Yes, I typed back, and maybe something more important, a chance. As we drove away, I thought about grandmother's last words in her journal, about karma and consequences, yes, but also about choice, about choosing to rebuild instead of destroy. You know, Lucas said as we hit the highway, your grandmother would be proud of you. Of giving your mother exile, but also giving her a path to redemption. That's more than she gave herself. I touched my pocket, feeling the single letter I'd kept, Mother's latest one, describing her first honest quarterly results, her small but growing team, her attempts to make amends. Maybe revenge wasn't about destroying someone, maybe sometimes it was about forcing them to face themselves, to change, to grow. And maybe, just maybe, that change could heal us both. Let's go home, I said, watching the boutique hotel disappear in the rearview mirror. We've got work to do. The restitution fund won't manage itself. And somewhere in Singapore, a family investment group was about to receive an unexpected letter, along with the first of many payments toward making things right. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was a beginning. You spent our education fund on what? I gasped, feeling the room spin around me as I gripped the edge of my desk, staring at my laptop screen in disbelief. The Zoom meeting's familiar grid of faces seemed to blur together, except for Nathan's pale, guilty expression and Vivian's perfectly composed features. My heart pounded against my ribs as I struggled to process what I'd just discovered through the shared screen: our son's entire college savings, gone. Now, Audrey, Vivian, my mother-in-law, interjected with her practiced smile, her image crystal clear in her expensively decorated study. I'm sure Nathan was just thinking of family, isn't that right, dear? I gripped my coffee mug tighter, my knuckles turning white. My name is Audrey, and I just discovered my husband had betrayed me in the worst way possible through a family Zoom call. It's an investment, Nathan mumbled, his eyes darting away from the camera. Mom and Dad needed help with their property taxes, and this was the quickest solution. I thought you'd understand. Understand? I hissed, struggling to keep my voice low so Oliver wouldn't hear from his online class in the next room. You transferred our entire savings without even talking to me. How is that an investment? Lawrence, my father-in-law, cleared his throat, his silver hair catching the light of his study. Now, let's not make a scene during our weekly family meeting. We're all family here. I let out a bitter laugh, the sound echoing in my home office. Family? Is that what you call this? Secretly moving money behind my back? Vivian's eyes narrowed, her perfectly maintained appearance somehow making her disapproval even more cutting. I don't appreciate your tone, young lady, after all we've done for you and that little online business of yours. Done for me? I cut her off, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. You've done nothing but criticize and undermine me since the day I married your son. My little business is more legitimate than this theft. Nathan reached closer to his camera, as if trying to reach through the screen. Honey, please, can we discuss this privately later? No, we can't. I snapped, clicking the bank statement tab to the forefront of my shared screen. I want to know exactly how much of our money you transferred for these property taxes. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the soft hum of our computers. Nathan shifted uncomfortably in his gaming chair, while Vivian's smug expression spoke volumes. All of it, Nathan finally whispered. The transfer. It took all of Oliver's education fund. The room tilted dangerously. I stood up abruptly, my chair rolling back against the wall. I need some air. And Nathan? Don't you dare leave this meeting. We're not done. As I walked away from my desk, I heard Vivian's voice drift through my headphones. Really, Nathan, I don't know why you put up with such dramatics. Especially from someone who couldn't even finish art school. I gripped the kitchen counter, gulping in deep breaths as I stared out the window at our quiet suburban street. The morning sun felt like a mockery of this nightmare. My hands trembled as I reached for my phone, opening my shop's analytics dashboard. The steady growth of my handmade jewelry business had been my pride, my path to independence. Now it felt impossibly small compared to the mountain of money Nathan had just given away. The soft ping of my laptop echoed from my home office, probably another message in the ongoing family Zoom call. Through the open door, I could hear Nathan's hesitant voice. I should go check on her. I whirled around as his footsteps approached, fury blazing in my chest. He stood in the doorway, headphones around his neck, looking lost in his wrinkled work-from-home clothes. Audrey, I'm sorry. I should have told you. Told me? I struggled to keep my voice low, conscious of Oliver's online class down the hall. You should have discussed it with me. We're supposed to be partners, Nathan. How could you make such a huge decision without me? He ran a hand through his unkempt hair, his wedding ring catching the light. They're my parents, Audrey. The property taxes on their house doubled, and with the market crash. And what about us? I demanded, gesturing to the kitchen where Oliver's school schedule was pinned to the fridge. What about our future? Our son's future? Nathan's eyes widened. Oliver? He's fine. This doesn't affect him. I laughed incredulously, pulling up my phone's banking app. Doesn't affect him? That money was for his college fund, Nathan. For his future. For emergencies. We can save again, he said weakly. Your shop is doing well, and I might get that promotion. That's not the point. I exploded, then immediately lowered my voice, glancing toward Oliver's room. You betrayed my trust. You put your parents before your own family. The laptop pinged again, and Vivian's voice carried down the hall. Nathan? Is everything all right out there? We're still waiting to discuss the summer plans. I bit back a scathing retort, forcing a smile into my voice. We'll be right there, Vivian. As soon as Nathan turned back toward the office, I grabbed his arm. This isn't over. We need to have a serious talk about our future. He nodded, relief washing over his face. Of course. We'll figure it out, I promise. But as we walked back to our respective desks to rejoin the Zoom call, the sickening realization hit me. This wasn't just about money. It was about loyalty, respect, and the very foundation of our marriage. I opened my chat with Harper, my best friend, and quickly typed, 911. Need to talk. Family Zoom drama just exploded. Vivian beamed at her camera, her perfectly styled hair catching the light of her expensive ring lights. Now, isn't this lovely? All of us together, like one big happy family. I was just telling Lawrence about the most wonderful private school I found for Oliver. I stared at my screen, absently clicking through my Etsy shop notifications, imagining they were something else entirely. Just wonderful, I muttered. As the conversation drifted to their country club membership renewal, I found myself withdrawing, observing the dynamics in each Zoom window with new eyes. Nathan, constantly glancing between his parents' windows and mine, Vivian, dominating the conversation with her carefully curated background, Lawrence, occasionally nodding off but jerking awake whenever Vivian cleared her throat, and me. I was the outsider, my simple home office backdrop a stark contrast to their luxurious surroundings. But as I watched Vivian manipulate the conversation, steering it towards her latest charity board triumph, a spark of defiance ignited within me. I minimized my shop's analytics and opened my notes app, starting to document every word, every subtle dig. "So, Audrey," Vivian's voice cut through my thoughts, "how is little Oliver doing with his online classes? Still struggling with that public school's distance learning program, is he?" I gritted my teeth, recognizing the subtle jab. "Actually, he's thriving. His teacher says he's one of the top students in his virtual classroom now." Vivian's smile tightened, her expensive earrings catching the light as she adjusted her posture. "Oh. Well, I'm sure Nathan's genes are finally kicking in. The Caldwells have always been exceptionally bright." I felt my blood begin to boil, my cursor hovering over the record meeting button, but before I could click it, Nathan jumped in. "Mom, did I tell you about the new project I'm managing at the firm?" As Vivian's attention shifted, lavishing praise on her darling boy, I sat back and continued taking notes, taking screenshots of particularly telling moments. My phone buzzed, a text from Harper, "Just saw your message. Call me as soon as you can. My co-working space is always open if you need an escape." The pieces were falling into place, revealing a pattern I'd been blind to for far too long. This wasn't just about money or property taxes, it was about control, about keeping Nathan firmly under their influence, even at the expense of his own family. Well, I thought, opening my Instagram business account and starting to draft a story, two can play at that game. My followers had always appreciated my authenticity, maybe it was time to be really authentic about family dynamics. As the endless Zoom call finally wound down, I sat in my home office, surrounded by the digital remnants of my day, open tabs showing bank statements, screenshots of telling conversations, and my shop's steadily growing sales metrics. The LED ring light I used for product photos cast harsh shadows across my workspace as evening settled in. "And don't forget, dear," Vivian's final words lingered in my head, "we simply must discuss Oliver's summer enrichment programs. I've found several excellent private options." I opened my browser history, methodically documenting every instance of their interference. The property tax payment was just the tip of the iceberg. There were the constant Zoom check-ins, the barrage of emails about Oliver's education, the passive-aggressive comments on every social media post about my business. "Mommy?" Oliver's voice pulled me from my thoughts. He stood in the doorway, tablet in hand. "Can I show you my science project?" "Of course, sweetie." I minimized my documentation window, forcing a smile. He bounded over, showing me his virtual solar system model, his eyes bright with excitement. "Mrs. Thompson says it's the best in class," he beamed. "Can I show Grandma Vivian?" I felt my chest tighten. "Maybe tomorrow, honey. It's getting late." "But Grandma always wants to see my school stuff right away," he persisted. "She says it's important to maintain high standards." The words, so clearly Vivian's, coming from my 8-year-old's mouth, made my stomach turn. I pulled him into a hug, breathing in the scent of his shampoo. "Your work is already amazing, Oliver. You don't need Grandma's approval for everything." "Audrey?" Nathan's voice came from the hallway. "Mom's trying to FaceTime. She wants to discuss those summer programs." "Not tonight," I called back firmly, hugging Oliver closer. I need to help our son with his science project. I heard Nathan sigh, followed by his footsteps retreating and his muffled voice making excuses to his mother. Small victories, I thought, opening my chat with Harper again. Still up for that coffee tomorrow? I typed. I need to show you something, and I could use a change of scenery from my home office. The modern co-working space buzzed with quiet energy, so different from my stifling home office. I sat in a corner booth, my laptop open to a spreadsheet of carefully documented incidents, my hands trembling as I dialed Harper's number. Harper? My voice cracked as she answered. I need help. I can't keep doing this. I'm already here, she replied without hesitation. By the coffee bar. I saw your Instagram story, the one about family dynamics that you deleted after 10 minutes. What happened? 20 minutes later, Harper slid into the booth across from me, 2 oat milk lattes in hand, her freelance designer's eye taking in my disheveled appearance. I spilled everything: the education fund, Vivian's digital surveillance, Nathan's betrayal. Look at these screenshots, I said, turning my laptop toward her. Every comment, every helpful suggestion about Oliver's education, every criticism of my business. Harper's expression darkened with each swipe. Oh, Audrey, she breathed, why didn't you tell me sooner about the extent of this? I shrugged helplessly, taking a sip of my latte. I thought I could handle it, that managing it all online would make it easier somehow. Keep them at a safe distance. Well, that ends now. Harper pulled out her iPad, her design portfolio forgotten. First things first, we need to organize all this evidence. Every Zoom recording, every email, every message. Build a digital paper trail. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. But how? The business is just starting to take off, and Oliver. Hey, a warm voice interrupted. We looked up to see Marcus, the co-working space owner, approaching with a concerned expression. Sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't help overhearing. We've got a private meeting room available if you need more privacy. I nodded gratefully, gathering my laptop. As we followed Marcus to the glass-walled room, I felt a subtle shift in the atmosphere, like finally finding a safe space to breathe. Marcus closed the door behind us, the soundproofed walls immediately creating a sense of sanctuary. I know we haven't officially met, he said, but Harper's told me about your jewelry business. And he hesitated, about your situation. I sank into one of the ergonomic chairs, my laptop open to the growing document of evidence. Is it that obvious? Let's just say I recognize the signs, he said kindly. My sister went through something similar. The financial control, the constant surveillance, the family meetings that turn into interrogations. Harper touched my arm. That's why I suggested meeting here. Marcus's space isn't just for entrepreneurs, it's a community. Over the next few weeks, the co-working space became my sanctuary. I started a detailed digital journal, meticulously recording Vivian's behavior, the way she'd accidentally report my Instagram posts for fake products, how she'd schedule Zoom calls with Oliver's teachers without consulting me. The constant stream of critical comments on my business page thinly veiled as constructive feedback. Really, Audrey, her latest email read, are you sure about this new collection? The pricing seems ambitious for someone at your level. Don't you think you should focus on Oliver's summer enrichment instead? I'd smile tightly, adding the email to my evidence folder. Each entry strengthened my resolve. Nathan remained oblivious, or perhaps willfully ignorant. When I tried to discuss Vivian's digital harassment, he'd brush it off. You're being too sensitive, he'd say during our nightly video calls when he worked late. Mom's just trying to help your business grow. I stopped trying to make him understand. Instead, I focused on Oliver, monitoring his online activities and creating boundaries around his virtual interactions with his grandparents. One afternoon, as I was helping him with his virtual homework at my co-working space desk, Vivian's FaceTime call popped up on his tablet. "Oh, let me handle this," she cooed through the screen. "Oliver needs proper academic guidance, not craft projects." I closed the call window, ignoring the immediate barrage of messages that followed. Later that night, I logged into Nathan's cloud storage, using the password he'd never bothered to change. A notification caught my eye, an email draft from Vivian to Nathan. My finger hovered over the trackpad. It was wrong to snoop, but I clicked. "Darling," the email read, "I'm concerned about Audrey's influence on Oliver's academic development. Perhaps we should consider more structured online learning options. After all, blood is thicker than water." My blood ran cold. They were trying to take control of my son's education completely. I met Harper at our usual corner of Marcus's space, my nerves frayed. "They want to control Oliver's entire education," I whispered, showing her the email I'd forwarded to myself. "They're trying to push their way into every aspect of his virtual learning." Harper's eyes widened as she scrolled through her tablet. "This is serious, Audrey. We need to act fast." She pulled out her phone, scrolling through contacts. "Look, I've been thinking. Your jewelry business is doing well online, right? And Marcus mentioned he's looking for someone to manage the co-working space's social media and online presence. It's not much, but it could be a steady income stream." I hesitated, adjusting my laptop screen. "I don't know, Harper. The shop's growing, but it's not enough to support us fully yet." "And what about Oliver's online schooling?" "One step at a time," she said firmly. "First, we secure your financial independence. The space has great Wi-Fi, and there's even a quiet corner where Oliver can do his virtual classes. Then, we tackle the rest." That evening, I returned home to find several missed calls from Vivian. As I checked my notifications, I heard her voice carrying from Oliver's tablet in the living room. "I just don't understand why she can't be more grateful," she was saying to someone. "After all we've done for her." I paused in the hallway, recording app ready on my phone. Lawrence's placating tone replied, "Now, dear, Audrey's trying her best with that little online shop of hers." "Her best?" Vivian scoffed. "She spends all day taking pictures of trinkets when she should be focusing on Oliver's education. It's a good thing we're here to guide him properly through his virtual learning." My hands clenched into fists, my phone still recording. Every instinct screamed at me to burst in, to end the call, but I held back, remembering my goal. This wasn't just about me anymore, it was about protecting Oliver from their suffocating digital presence. I retreated to my home office, pulling up my documentation spreadsheet. As I added the new recording, a sense of calm settled over me. For the first time since this nightmare began, I had a clear path forward. The next morning, I called Marcus. "I'd love to hear more about that social media position," I said, my voice steady. "And about that private office space we discussed." As I hung up, I caught sight of my reflection in my ring light. The woman staring back at me looked different, stronger, more determined. I thought of Oliver, of the life I wanted for us, of the example I wanted to set for my son. No more silent suffering. No more letting Vivian dictate our lives through screens and digital manipulation. It was time to take control. I opened my evidence folder, reviewing pages of screenshots, recordings, and emails documenting their manipulation. Soon, very soon, I'd have enough to make my stand. And when I did, Vivian, Nathan, and anyone else who tried to come between me and my son would learn just how formidable I could be. The silent digital rebellion had begun, and I was ready for war. The morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Marcus's co-working space, glinting off my laptop screen where my latest jewelry collection photos waited to be uploaded. The space hummed with quiet productivity, so different from the suffocating atmosphere of video calls with the Caldwells. "How's the new social media campaign going?" Marcus asked, setting down a fresh cup of coffee at my dedicated desk. His co-working space had become more than just an office, it was a sanctuary. "The engagement metrics are up 50% since last week," I replied, pulling up my analytics dashboard. "Turns out people really connect with authentic stories about small business struggles." "And the other, documentation?" he asked quietly, glancing at my second monitor where a folder labeled Family Records sat minimized. I nodded, my stomach churning with a mixture of nervousness and determination. "Almost ready. My lawyer says we have more than enough." "Mom? Can I show Mr. Marcus my science presentation?" Oliver called from his designated study corner, where he attended his virtual classes. The space had worked out perfectly. He had his own quiet area for school, while still being close enough for me to monitor his online activities. As Oliver eagerly demonstrated his project, my phone buzzed with another message from Vivian. "Audrey, dear, I've taken the liberty of enrolling Oliver in an elite online tutoring program. The invoice has been sent to Nathan. We can discuss reducing your little shop's hours to accommodate the schedule." I added the message to my evidence folder without responding. My hand hovered over the keyboard, tempted to fire back a response, when Harper burst through the door, her face flushed with excitement. "You're not going to believe this," she said, pulling up a chair. "Remember that arts education nonprofit I mentioned? They want to partner with your jewelry business for their summer program. Full social media campaign, workshops for kids, everything." I stared at her, my mind racing. "But Vivian's summer plans?" "Exactly," Harper grinned. "Time to show them what you can really do." "Absolutely not." Vivian's voice crackled through my AirPods, her face reddening on my screen. "Oliver needs proper academic enrichment, not craft projects." I sat straighter in my co-working space chair, feeling Marcus and Harper's supportive presence just outside the private meeting room. "This is a legitimate arts education program, Vivian. The nonprofit has an excellent reputation." "But we've already arranged his summer schedule," she pressed, her perfectly manicured hand gesturing to some unseen document. "The online tutoring, the virtual music lessons, the junior investment club." "Actually," I interrupted, sharing my screen to display the nonprofit's website, "I've already enrolled Oliver. As his mother, I've made this decision." Nathan's face appeared in his Zoom window, looking panicked. "Audrey, maybe we should discuss this privately." "Why?" I asked calmly, continuing to screen share as I navigated to my evidence folder. "Like we discussed the education fund privately? Or Oliver's tutoring expenses?" Vivian's eyes narrowed. "Nathan, control your wife's screen. She's being ridiculous." "No, I'm being a mother," I said, opening the first document. "And I've documented everything, Vivian. Every manipulative message, every unauthorized decision about Oliver's education, every attempt to undermine my business. Would you like to see the timestamps?" The silence that followed was broken only by the soft hum of my laptop fan. Lawrence appeared in his window, looking uncomfortable. "Now, let's not be hasty." "I'm not being hasty," I replied, my voice steady. "I'm being methodical. Just like I've been for the past 3 months, documenting every instance of interference in my family's life." Nathan's face had gone pale. "Audrey, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that things are going to change," I answered, switching to my business analytics dashboard. "My jewelry business is thriving. I'm managing social media for a successful co-working space. I'm partnering with a respected nonprofit. And I'm done letting you control our lives through guilt and financial manipulation. You ungrateful little Vivian started, but I cut her off by playing a recording of her earlier conversation about my trinkets. I have hundreds of these, I said quietly. Every dismissive comment, every unauthorized decision, every attempt to control Oliver's education through digital means. My lawyer has copies of everything. The word lawyer fell like a bomb into the Zoom call. Vivian's carefully composed face crumpled for a moment before she caught herself. Nathan, she hissed, do something. But Nathan was staring at his screen, watching as I methodically displayed screenshot after screenshot. I had no idea it was this bad, he whispered. No, I agreed, you didn't. Because you didn't want to see it. But now you have to decide, Nathan. Are you going to keep enabling this, or are you going to start being a real partner and father? Audrey, Nathan pleaded, his face filling his Zoom window as he leaned closer to his camera, we can work this out. I'll talk to Mom, make her understand. Make me understand? Vivian cut in, her voice rising. I'm not the one destroying this family with ridiculous accusations and amateur jewelry. I smiled, clicking to share a new screen, my shop's revenue analytics. Amateur? My little business made more last month than your property tax bill, Vivian. The one you needed our son's education fund to pay. A notification popped up on my screen, Oliver's teacher requesting to join the call. I quickly declined it, making a mental note to follow up later. This wasn't something he needed to witness. Speaking of money, I continued, switching to a spreadsheet. I've documented every unauthorized expense, every enrichment program you've signed Oliver up for without my consent, every attempt to force us into financial decisions that benefit you. Would you like me to share that next? Those were investments in our grandson's future. Lawrence protested, finally finding his voice. No, I said firmly, they were attempts to maintain control. But that ends now. Nathan, I'm sending you my lawyer's contact information. We need to discuss new arrangements. Nathan's face crumpled. Arrangements? What do you mean? It means I'm taking Oliver and moving into my own place. I've already found one near the co-working space. You can have supervised visits away from your parents' influence. You can't do this. Vivian shrieked, her perfectly curated background shaking as she moved. We'll fight you. I held up my phone, displaying the recording app. Every word of this call is being recorded, Vivian. Just like I've recorded every threatening message, every manipulative interaction, every attempt to alienate my son from me through digital means. Do you really want all of this coming out in court? For the first time, I saw genuine fear in Vivian's eyes. The realization that her carefully constructed digital web of control was being used against her seemed to age her instantly. Nathan, she pleaded, tell her she's being unreasonable. But Nathan sat frozen, his eyes fixed on something off-screen. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. She's right, Mom. This has to stop. The silence that followed was deafening. I used the moment to open my email, sending Nathan the carefully prepared document from my lawyer. I'm not trying to keep Oliver from you, I said softly. I just want us to be free from manipulation. To be a healthy family. Family? Vivian spat. You're destroying our family. No, Vivian, I replied, my finger hovering over the leave meeting button. I'm saving what's left of it. Nathan, check your email. My lawyer expects your response by Friday. As I clicked to leave the call, I heard Vivian's voice rise in protest, but the sound cut off abruptly, leaving me in the blessed silence of my private office at the co-working space. Through the glass walls, I could see Oliver working on his science project, Harper and Marcus keeping him engaged and protected from the drama unfolding just a few feet away. My phone buzzed a text from Nathan. "Can we talk? Just us? No parents, no lawyers. Please." I stared at the message for a long moment before replying, "Tomorrow. At the co-working space. Bring the education fund statements." The early morning quiet of the co-working space was broken only by the gentle hum of the espresso machine as Nathan walked in, looking out of place in his corporate casual attire among the creative entrepreneurs. He clutched a manila envelope, the education fund statements I'd requested. "You look good," he said awkwardly, taking in my confident posture at my dedicated desk, surrounded by product photography equipment and social media analytics displays. "The business is really taking off, huh?" "It is," I replied, gesturing to the chair across from me. "Did you bring the statements?" He nodded, sinking into the chair and sliding the envelope across my desk. "Audrey, before we get into this, I'm sorry. I've been doing a lot of thinking since yesterday's call. And?" I kept my voice neutral, though my heart was racing. "You're right. About everything. Mom's control, the manipulation, how I've failed you and Oliver." He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "I've been talking to a therapist, actually. Started last week." I paused in opening the envelope, studying his face. "Really?" "Yeah. After that day you showed me the recordings of Mom talking to Oliver about his academic standards. I couldn't sleep. Started looking up some things online about family dynamics, controlling parents." He swallowed hard. "Found some stuff that hit pretty close to home." A notification popped up on my laptop, another message from Vivian about Oliver's summer schedule. I declined it without breaking eye contact with Nathan. That's good, Nathan. But it doesn't change what happened with the education fund." "I know," he said quickly. "I've already talked to the bank. I can pull the money back from Mom and Dad's account. Not all of it, but most. And I've been looking at remote work opportunities with better pay, companies that actually respect work-life balance." "Stop," I held up my hand. "This isn't about money anymore." "Well, not entirely. It's about trust. Partnership. Being able to make decisions about our son's life without your parents' digital surveillance and constant interference." Through the glass walls, I could see Oliver arriving with Harper for his daily study session. He waved excitedly at both of us before settling into his corner, completely unaware of the tension between his parents. "I want to fix this," Nathan said, following my gaze to our son. "Tell me how to fix this." "Step 1, I said, pulling up my calendar. "We establish clear boundaries. No more unauthorized Zoom calls with Oliver. No more surprise educational programs. No more criticizing my business on social media." Nathan nodded, taking notes on his phone. "And my parents? They get supervised virtual visits only, at least for now. All communication goes through both of us, with screen recordings. No private messages, no secret FaceTime calls." "Mom will hate that," he said quietly. "I know," I replied, pulling up a spreadsheet. "But look at this, I've documented every instance of interference in the past 6 months. Every emergency family meeting that disrupted Oliver's school schedule, every critical comment about my parenting on social media, every attempt to make financial decisions without my input." Nathan's face paled as he scrolled through the document. I knew some of this was happening, but seeing it all laid out like this. "That's the problem, Nathan. You saw it happening and did nothing. That has to change." A notification popped up on my screen, Marcus asking if we needed anything. I smiled, feeling grateful for the safe space he'd provided. "I'll do whatever it takes," Nathan said, his voice firm for the first time. "I've already started looking at apartments near here. Something with a good setup for remote work and Oliver's virtual schooling." I raised an eyebrow. "You're moving out of your parents' guest house?" He nodded. "Called the realtor this morning. Mom doesn't know yet." He managed a weak smile. "Maybe I'll finally get to set up my own Zoom background without her input." Despite everything, I felt a glimmer of hope. Not for us as a couple, that trust was too badly broken, but for us as parents, maybe we could find a new way forward. "One more thing," I said, opening my evidence folder. "I need you to read through all of this. Really read it. Understand what your parents have been doing to our family through their digital manipulation. And then I need you to stand with me when we tell them about the new arrangements." The familiar grid of faces appeared on my screen, but this time I felt different. Nathan sat beside me in the co-working space's meeting room, our laptops side by side, presenting a united front. "This is ridiculous," Vivian declared, her face tight with anger even through the screen. "Meeting in some shared office space to discuss family matters." "This isn't up for discussion," Nathan said firmly, his voice steady. "We're here to tell you how things will be moving forward, not to negotiate." I pulled up the document we'd prepared. "From now on, all communication about Oliver goes through both of us. No private messages, no surprise virtual tutoring sessions, no unauthorized financial decisions. You can't cut us off from our grandson." Vivian protested, while Lawrence shifted uncomfortably in his background. "We're not cutting you off," I explained, sharing my screen to show a carefully structured schedule. "You'll have regular video calls with Oliver, supervised, scheduled, and recorded. But the manipulation ends now." "Manipulation?" Vivian's voice rose. "Everything we've done has been for this family. Nathan, surely you don't agree with this digital imprisonment?" "Actually, Mom, I do." Nathan leaned forward, his face filling his video window. "I've read through all the evidence. Seen all the messages, the social media comments, the financial records. It stops now, or you don't get virtual visits at all." The silence that followed was broken only by the soft whir of laptop fans. Through the glass walls, I could see Oliver working with Harper on his latest science project, safe from the tension of this confrontation. "This isn't over," Vivian finally said, her voice cold. "Lawrence, call our lawyer." "Already sent them everything," I replied calmly, pulling up another file. "Every screenshot, every recording, every document. Would you like me to share them in this call?" Vivian's face paled, but before she could respond, Lawrence spoke up. "Enough, Vivian. They're right. We've gone too far." The afternoon sun streamed through the windows of Marcus's co-working space as I adjusted my ring light for a product photography session. My latest jewelry collection was laid out on my desk, each piece telling a story of growth and independence. "The analytics on your last Instagram campaign were incredible," Marcus commented, setting down a fresh coffee at my workstation. "The authenticity really resonates with people." I smiled, glancing at Oliver in his study corner, where he was focused on his virtual science class. The past 6 months had brought changes I never could have imagined. "He's really thriving now, isn't he?" Harper's voice came from her nearby desk, where she was working on designs for our upcoming youth arts workshop. I nodded, watching my son confidently participate in his online class. "The difference is amazing. No more stress about surprise tutoring sessions or unexpected Zoom calls with Grandma." The supervised virtual visits with Vivian and Lawrence had gradually become more manageable. While Vivian still occasionally slipped in a critical comment about my business, the recordings of each call kept her mostly in check. Nathan had kept his word, maintaining his own apartment nearby and respecting our new digital boundaries. Our co-parenting schedule worked smoothly, with Oliver splitting his virtual school time between our workspaces. "Mom!" Oliver called out excitedly, waving me over to his desk. "Look what I made in science class today." As I walked over to admire his virtual science fair project, my phone buzzed with a notification, a text from Nathan, "Parent-teacher conference tomorrow at 3? I'll send you the Zoom link." I smiled, responding with a quick thumbs up. This was how it should be: simple, respectful, focused on Oliver's well-being. Through the co-working space windows, I could see the city stretching out before us, full of possibilities. My jewelry business was flourishing, the youth arts program was taking off, and most importantly, Oliver was happy. The woman reflected in my computer screen was unrecognizable from the one who had discovered that betrayal 6 months ago. She stood taller, smiled more freely, ran her business with confidence. The digital paper trail I'd created had given me more than just evidence, it had given me my power back. My phone buzzed again, this time a message from Vivian, "Looking forward to our scheduled call with Oliver tomorrow." The usual time? No demands, no criticism, no manipulation. Just a simple request following our established protocols. Progress, I thought, as I typed a polite confirmation. Not perfect, but progress. The sunset painted the co-working space in warm hues as I wrapped up my last product photography session. Oliver was packing up his study materials, chatting excitedly about tomorrow's virtual science fair. "Ready to head home, sweetie?" I asked, carefully storing my camera equipment. "Can we stop by Dad's first? I want to show him my project before the fair tomorrow." Of course, I smiled, sending Nathan a quick heads-up text. My phone screen showed a string of recent notifications, orders from my online shop, comments on my latest Instagram post, and a calendar reminder for tomorrow's supervised call with the grandparents. "You know," Marcus said, approaching my desk as I packed up, "when you first started working here, I wasn't sure you'd make it. You looked haunted." I paused, considering his words. I was. Controlled, manipulated, afraid. But documenting everything, building evidence, it wasn't just about protection. It was about reclaiming my narrative. "And now look at you," Harper chimed in, gesturing to my thriving workspace. "Running a successful business, managing the space's social media, leading youth workshops. More importantly," I added, watching Oliver proudly show his science project to another co-working member, "being the mother he deserves." My phone buzzed, Nathan confirming we could stop by. Our new normal wasn't perfect, but it was honest. The digital boundaries we'd established had created space for real relationships to grow. "Ready, Mom?" Oliver called, backpack slung over his shoulder. "Ready," I replied, logging out of my workstation. As we walked out of the co-working space, I caught my reflection in the window, confident, strong, free. The digital paper trail that had started as evidence had become something more, a record of my journey from controlled to controller of my own story. The future stretched out before us, full of possibilities, each one our own to choose.